Welcome to the Cash Confident Podcast. I'm BRIE, your fearless host, personal finance expert, and the visionary behind the revolutionary Cash Confident community. Oh, hello, BRIE here, coming to you on the Cash Confident Podcast. If you are watching this live today, I'm outside on my deck. You may hear some birds singing. It is so beautiful outside that I could not bear to record this episode in the house. It's like springtime in Connecticut, which if you have ever visited the Northeast, you'll know that winter is long. And a lot of times spring is short. So here we are at the end of April. Such a beautiful day. I'm in a tank top. Today, we're going to be I just want to explain something around the energy of money and what this has to do with mindset, what this has to do with money management. And I'm going to tell you a story. This is one of my stories. So this story is before COVID. I was a couple years into business, and I wanted to join this marketing mastermind with this man that I find to be brilliant, and his name is George Bryant. And his mastermind at the time that I was in it was $2,500 a month, which was a big payment for me. That was a lot of money to me at the time. And I joined the mastermind. I did it on purpose, and I freaked myself out so hard about this. Even though I did what I wanted to do, I made this decision on purpose, fear started to drop into my body. Scarcity started to drop into my body. My mind started bothering me all the time about, you're not going to have money to pay your staff and be in this mastermind. You're not going to have enough money to do this. You're not going to have enough money to do that. And we're talking self-torture levels of mental chatter here. We're talking really my mind was, so hard bothering me. Now, since then, I've trained my mind quite a bit better, right? At that point in my life, my mind was reasonably well trained, but I didn't have enough authority over it to just be like, dude, we're changing the subject here. I wasn't there yet in my own mental and personal development. And about a few months into this mastermind, there was a live event that was in California. And it was a February event. And like I just said, February in Connecticut is the dead of winter. It is snowy, icy, 12 degrees, real cold. And I call this man, I'm going to quit his mastermind because I'm I just don't have the money for the plane ticket. I don't have the money I just couldn't do it. The stress of the scarcity was so bad that I called him to quit the mastermind. And he basically tells me more or less that I'm being reactive. And I was like, oh, you're right. And he was like, listen, the event is already paid for, BRIE. Just come. And if you need to quit the mastermind after that, then quit it. But this thing is already paid for. So come. There's so much value to get. And I was like, all right. So I put the plane tickets on my credit card. Probably the last available balance. At that time, I don't think I also had a ton of credit. My relationship with credit isn't the best. I'm not going to be one of those people that uses their credit card to get points and stuff. When I have credit cards, I just don't look as closely at my money. And I do this work. I just want to put that out there because sometimes people think that using your credit cards is some mark of success, and it could be, but it's also not. So anyways, I put this event on my credit card, put the plane tickets on the credit card. And luckily, the way that the event was structured, it really minimized the amount of time or the amount of triggers that I was the amount of time my scarcity was going to be triggered. So we got an Airbnb with a whole bunch of people. And so the cost on that was super, super low, and it was all right. And then I had somebody from the mastermind was landing at the airport at the same time. So myself and another woman got a ride with somebody. Perfect. We were all going to the same places. So that was good. So I didn't have to pay for an Uber. We stopped at the grocery store to pick up a couple things. I didn't really need it that much. And it was the whole time I'm not really having to use my debit card, which was beautiful, right? The food was included. The food was beautiful. The food was healthy. It was included in this retreat. And so I got there in such a tight, constricted state of scarcity. But day one, I'm feeling pretty good. Also, you get to Southern California in February. The weather is there. The flowers are blooming. I remember when I was on that retreat, every morning I got up a little bit before the sun. I wake up early on East Coast time. So I was actually up in the middle of the night on Pacific Coast time, waiting for the sun. But I was out smelling roses. I went out and I really was with the abundance that was already springtime in nature. And there was something about that was super deeply nourishing for me, just sniffing the flowers, just smelling. The house that we stayed at had the most beautiful roses, rose garden, extraordinaire. And the flowers were already bloomed and already fragrant. And there was a kumquat tree it was the neighbor's kumquat tree. It wasn't the house that we were in. but the branches were peeking over, and I plucked one. And they're not delicious. I'll tell you what. I thought maybe it was going to be like a mandarin. No, a kumquat is quite sour. I would imagine it would be delicious like the way that you would use a lemon. But I took a whole bite of that thing. Not delicious in that form. I would say that kumquats are probably quite delicious in forms that are appropriate for their level of sourness. All right, I digress. So that happened in this event. The first day I get there, we go in. I feel so out of place. I feel like I don't belong there. I feel like these people know what's going on. Like, they're good at business. I'm new to business. They know what they're doing with marketing. I don't know what I'm doing with marketing. Like, they know stuff. They're better off than me, like, blah, blah. Right? And these are the stories. So I'm feeling super out of place. And as time goes on, it's fine. We're all getting to know each other. Nobody has their stuff together the way that I think they do, right? Everybody's, yeah, this is my problem. I noticed that people making 7, 8 figures, are in this mastermind learning marketing at this level, which makes me feel a little ahead of the curve. And I was like, all right. And I was like, also noticing people 6, 7, 8 figures all having cash flow issues. And I was like, oh, this is a thing about business. Maybe it's not just like my personal failing, right? I was like, this is maybe a thing that happens to business owners from time to time. It's cash flow issues. And so that happens. And the days go on. I can feel myself open up. Like, I can feel the energy, the free flowing, like, abundance of these spaces. Like, I can feel it, like, shifting me, changing me. I'm like noticing the stress leaving my body. I'm like starting to see more possibilities. And the last day of that retreat, somebody was speaking. I get an idea, and the idea was to turn on an ad that we'd already had, that was already existing in my ads account. And so I text my operations director and said, hey, could we turn on this certain ad? And she know what we know what we're talking about. And she was like, yeah, of course. So we turned on the ad. I think I turned it on for $20 or $30. By the end of that day, I had 8 calls booked on my calendar, which at that point was 8 sales calls. And the week that I got home from that trip, I sold a bunch of those calls, and I made $50,000 when I got home, which at that point in time was double my biggest month in sales, was double. And here's what I want to point out to you. The idea, that ad to turn on was available the whole time. But when I was so tight in scarcity, I couldn't find that idea. That idea, it just wasn't coming through to me. Like, I wasn't there for it. I couldn't hear that little intuition. And so I was, really suffering. And when the energy shifted, my inspiration, my ability to think got clearer. And I want to point this out to you because so many of us live in scarcity, and we make decisions from a place of scarcity, and we never really have that chance to open up to abundance. And the thoughts that we have while we're in scarcity are so drastically different from the thoughts that we have when we're in abundance. And so, like, the thing that really helped me with this is that I took myself, so listen, my house isn't like a scarcity house, but like, I was so in my regular vibe there, my regular scarcity vibe, that the trip, the flat, like, it was the environment that shifted for me that helped me understand this. So this is something that it took for me to understand it, but I'm explaining it to you. So hopefully you don't have to go to California or wherever to understand what I'm talking about. But so for me, the energy shifted, right? So I was in a place full of life where, like, in my house, Connecticut, February is barren still, right? Like, full of birds singing, full of flowers. I was spared from like that scarcity trigger of having to use my debit card. Cause I don't think almost the whole trip, I barely had to spend any money. And that was super, super helpful. So I got some reprieve, right? Cause the food was already included. And I think this trip, somebody dropped off a case of wine to our house, so even if we had everything that we needed at the house, nobody needed to go out for anything. We didn't have to go out. We just had everything that we needed at the Airbnb that we rented. And I got to stay. It was a few girls, like a few of the girls stayed together in this house, and it was just such a delight. And so there was the slumber party vibes, and it was just so good. And so that shift in environment really helped me to move. That was there to support that vibrational state. And since then, I've been able to, I can change my vibrational state much more easily, more readily. But was this 2019? In 2019 was five years ago. I was still learning quite a bit about energy. Since then, I've studied extensively, the energy piece of wealth. And so anyways, I just want to point this out to you because I think sometimes we focus so hard on the mindset. And listen, I love money mindset. I love, love, love money mindset. And money mindset is super important. And it is 1000% worth doing. And money management is another thing where sometimes people are coming to see me and they're trying to outmanage a problem that's really an energy problem. All right. Like the best budget in the world is not going to make you feel a life of abundance. You're not going to feel abundant necessarily because abundance is an energy that you're hoping to cultivate. And money management is practical money management. It's beautiful. You should do it, but they're not the same thing, right? So this is just what I want to point out. And I just want to tell you this story because I think also like sometimes people get a little ashamed of being in scarcity. I know I do. I do. Also, this is my work, right? So sometimes when I'm in scarcity, it feels like I teach on this and sometimes I can't even get myself out of it or I can't even figure it out. And since then, also back in 2019, I was also really fighting with scarcity. I wasn't letting it be my friend. I wasn't letting it be my teacher. I wasn't letting the energy of scarcity carry me through and be bought. Like scarcity is really a wonderful friend and teacher when you're at that place where you can have a relationship with it. Now, when I'm in scarcity, I'm like, hey, scarcity, you're here. What's that about? Oh, do you have something to teach me? All right. Should I be doing something? Should I be looking for something? Was there something there that we need to be doing? Right. Scarcity is a big act. Like when you're in scarcity, there's generally like big actions. And scarcity, I will tell you, has been the motivation for me to do some really ballsy shit in my day. Right. And I just want to point that out too, because sometimes we just get so afraid of it. So today, I want to tell you this story. I don't know. I just wanted to tell you this story. I felt I have an offer coming out actually I have an offer coming out at the time I'm recording this. That's called Money Magic. And I'm just teaching these energetic principles. So it's just super alive in my mind. So beautiful. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening to me. And I will talk to you next week.